Hi, welcome back to another CSRM podcast. I am Andrew Fouts. I'm the Director of Digital Resource Development here with CSRM. I'm back again at the Cleveland Public Library South Branch and using their recording studio. And we are getting close to the end of your time with me before we get back with Dr. Linville. We've got the Board of Trustees meeting coming up here soon in Canton, Ohio. And so we're hopefully going to be able to get some of our board members and some other special guests in the booth here soon, so that way we can start getting back to some of the normal programming that you normally get from us here with CSRM podcasts. We finished up last week talking about podcasting as far as the technology side. This week we are moving into marketing, kind of overall marketing, but specifically in a digital setting. And then next week, we are going to close out our technology talks with focusing on social media. But today, like I said, we're talking marketing. And this is something that a lot of churches either think they know how to do and don't, or don't think they know what to do in reality. Just like we talked about with podcasting, it's actually something that you can do based off of your budget and your time and your audience. Marketing for ministry is completely different than marketing in a business setting. A lot of times we like to think business marketing with commercials and billboards and, radio spots, all those kind of things. Business marketing is all about moving a specific product for a certain amount of time. It's not necessarily about broadcasting a brand. It's more of broadcasting the product at the time. Ministry marketing is completely different, because in ministry we're not trying to market a product, we're trying to share the gospel with people. And so ministry marketing realistically is just another aspect of the evangelistic disciple making process that we talk about in a lot of our other podcasts with our international director P.F. Flyer, as well as Dr. Linville and even some of Dr. Linville's books. And so we are going to focus on what marketing for ministries look like. We're going to look at how we do it. We're going to look at what the cost would be, as well as what it actually is that we're trying to get across. And the first thing, and this is the most important, and we talked about this with the content for your podcast, what we should be marketing is we're marketing the stories. We're marketing the gospel story. We're marketing the testimonies of the saints in the past, as well as the saints in your current church, as well as even just some of the people that are there coming in now. And so that's what we're going to start talking about. But first, a little brief history lesson here. The church has had a history of marketing based off of the technology of the time. The early church relied solely on evangelism and the testimony of the original believers. What Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians as the 500 that saw him. The persecuted church that came after them had to rely on signs, the ichthus, the cross, things like that. They weren't able to just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, have you heard about Jesus?" Not without getting their head chopped off. So instead, they relied on signs. They relied on drawing the ichthus on the ground. They relied on the cross symbol, all those sort of things. And that was the way it was for a while until you hit the Renaissance. And at that point, architecture became the big thing. Everybody recognizes the big churches that were built in the Renaissance era. They're huge. They have a bunch of paintings, stained glass, brick, all that kind of stuff. Even here across the street from me here in Ohio City, one of the biggest cathedral type churches in the area is still standing across the street, and it's a church because of the architecture. We see that in the U.S. also. In some of the bigger cities, you've got the big architectural wonders. When you start moving west into the plains, you've got the typical American church, the white wooden structure out in the middle of a field with a big steeple and a cross on top. Everybody knows it's a church because it looks like a church. However, today that's not the case anymore. A lot of churches, a lot of your churches even, are in old schools. They're in corner shops. My uncle's church is in a mall. The architecture is not what we're marketing with. So what should we be marketing with today? And there's really four main methods of how we do this. There's a personal method, a corporate method, the online method, which is what we're going to focus on mostly today, and then social media method, which is what we've focused on the past few weeks, as well as what we're going to focus on next week. So the personal method is the main one that we've been relying on, and honestly, and a lot of people are surprised to hear a millennial say this, it's honestly still the best method of marketing for any kind of ministry in general. This is word of mouth. This is you and your congregation, or you and your teams going out and walking the streets, praying with people, talking with people, introducing yourselves, doing still even the paper mailing lists. Which, if you would like to join the CSRM mailing list, please contact us and we will get you on there. Those sort of things are still going to be your top level. We still want that face-to-face interaction. We're talking about relationship with Christ and relationship with other believers, and so of course the easiest way to start that process is to actually do it in a relational way. The corporate method is the one that a lot of churches cannot actually do. Some of you that are bigger churches, not necessarily mega churches, but bigger churches budget-wise, you're able to do these sort of things. This is the billboards, the television spots, the radio spots, newspaper, those sort of things. Those are the corporate ideas of how to do it. Budgets are the biggest hindrance in advertising. It's not about the size of your church. It's not about the location. Your budget is normally the biggest hindrance, and especially when we're talking the corporate side of things. Corporate advertising normally is directed at either big events or the regular service. Nothing more than that. It really is just a draw to try to get people to actually know you're there and get people into the building. Different than the personal method, which is more about the relationship building, the disciple making process that we talk about here with CSRM. The corporate side is more of the shock and awe type of method, and it's normally very direct and very clear. Social media, like I said, we're going to talk about next week. It's about engaging people where they're at already. You're sharing your church's story, your congregation's story, the gospel story. You're advertising the people, what's involved, all that kind of stuff. We're going to, again, talk more about that next week. But the big thing that we want to focus on today is the online marketing side of this. And this is your website, your website, your online campus, like we talked about with your podcast, things like that. And so the three things that we focus on when we talk about online marketing is your website, SEOs, which is basically your online ID card, or in my case, library card, as well as emails, which is almost like an online bulletin. So that's what we're going to start trying to look at here throughout the rest of this podcast. The big question for a lot of churches, especially some older churches, is this fight between, do we do online or do we do personal marketing? The internet is the primary source for information for people in today's age. That's just the way it is. We talked about this with the podcast again. YouTube is the number 2 website behind Google. Google is an information drive. That is the place people are going to go for their information. However, right now the hashtag fake news stuff is one of the biggest things going on in the country. People don't necessarily trust what's being given to them online, so you do have to take that into account also. With online, you have to worry about SEOs, you have to worry about the different algorithms, the different usage laws, and they're always changing and they're always confusing. You don't have that with the personal side of things, at least here in the U.S. still. There's no logins talking about your church to people, no limits how often you can talk to people. There's benefits to both, and so rather than having the fight of, well, do we do this or do we do that, honestly, that's part of what we're trying to talk about today, is the fact that we need to be doing both. With the church that my wife and I have been helping with for a while, the last event that we did, I actually went through, and when we had people register, we asked them how they heard about the event and got some of the stats from it. 51% of the people that showed up because we knocked on their door and invited them with the flyer. That's 51% of the people found out from us actually going out the personal method. The other 49% were a mixture of the different online methods, social media, the website. They heard about it from friends online, not friends in person. Both of these things are valid. The personal one still is going to be a little bit more effective, but if you don't have the online presence to back it up, your personal methods are going to fall flat in today's world. And so that's what we want to talk about, is how do we do this kind of stuff? The oldest and easiest method to do online marketing is still emails. Emailing newsletters, emailing out prayer requests. What we do with CSRM, those of you that are subscribed to the podcast, normally we are emailing you when we issue a new podcast with the links both for audio and visual. We also invite you to some of the different events, things like that on there. We also are sending out emails throughout the year as far as updates from different staff members, updates from different people in the field, different resources, as we get closer to Reach Gathering, reminding people when deadlines are for registering for that. It's still an effective way as long as you know how to do it. And so the two things that you want to look at with your emails, make sure they stand out in the inbox. Make sure that the subject line is something that's actually going to make people want to click on it and open it up. I currently on my phone have 45 unread emails just in my personal email folder. There's no way I'm going to be able to go through and actually read every single one of them. And so what I do is I go through, look at the subject line, and make sure, okay, is this something I actually need to know, or is this just another ad? If it's another ad, I probably don't look at it unless it's something that says it's a coupon. I'm probably not going to be looking at it. Make sure your subject line is something that is going to be, people are going to want to open. Those of you that are subscribed to the CSRM newsletter, when we send out important updates like prayer requests or budgetary things, like we're asking for a special love offering. Normally we even have, we put in, not only is this an update that's important, but we even are using the emojis for like the warning signs, all that kind of thing, because it does make it pop out in your inbox. It's something that needs to be done, and it's something that's very easy to do as long as you take a little bit of time to get creative with it. The other big thing with email today is that it's got to be designed properly. Just a typed out text letter in terms of you're trying to market it is probably not going to be read. But if you're using things like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Neon, a couple of these different websites and agencies that can help you with your marketing emails, you can start putting in things like pictures, changing the background, putting the logos on, putting links, buttons, all that kind of stuff. The design is going to make people actually want to look at it a little bit longer and actually take in what's there. Most people know how to do email, but doing email effectively for marketing is a whole nother ball game, and it's something that if you don't know how to do it, it's very simple to learn. Just go through your own inbox, and you know which ones you actually open, which ones you don't. Look at what they're doing compared to what you're doing. These guys are actually saying, hey, you should open this email because you're going to get something. This is an update on something you've already done. All these kind of things. Is it something they've got emojis in the subject line so you're kind of interested what this is? Is it when you open the email it stands out to you? Pictures, things like that. We even still within the staff, if we see somebody, another ministry that that we're subscribed to, that sends us an email that is very visually appealing, we share it around the staff so that way we can get ideas and try to glean off of it to try to improve our own emailing strategy. Email is not a dead tool. It is kind of on its way out, but it's still going to be around just like snail mail is. It's something that you need to understand and be looking at better ways to improve your open rates. SEOs, this was another thing we talked about, and this is something that most of you are like, what in the world is this guy talking about? Without realizing it, all of you use SEOs regularly. SEOs are the words that are attached to your URL, which is the link that everybody goes to go to your stuff. So like our URL is www.csrm.org. that URL has SEOs attached to it, and those SEOs are the words that the creator of the site has used to identify your site compared to everything else. This is like your online ID card or library card. Like I said, you select them. Whether you realize it or not, you selected them. They're registered to your site. And these should be different than your church's name, but integral to the church DNA. What we mean by that is you don't want to make your search engine operatives Church Sports Recreation Ministers Association. That's not going to be beneficial to us as an SEO because our name is already on that. Anytime somebody searches it, we're already going to be in the pot for that anyway. So for us, things like ministry resources, sports ministry resources, international missions, things like that. So that way when people start searching for organizations that deal in international missions, CSRM pops up. When people are looking for a resource for ministry, a resource for sports ministry, we pop up. Job selection stuff, it's another one. We should pop up if you're searching for sports ministry jobs because we post them on our website, and that's one of the things that people use our website for. They're integral to the ministry of CSRM. They're part of our DNA, and so they should be part of our search engine operatives also. Later on, when we get to some resources, I'll give you some tools, some places you can go to try to help you with your search engine operative choices. But those are some big ones as far as those are the big points as far as what you should use with them. The big thing for online marketing, of course, is your website. And some of you that are associate pastors for your sports ministries, youth ministries, family ministries, you may not actually have access to doing these sort of things with your church website. But it's good to know, and it's something that you can pass along to whoever is in charge of your website as far as these are the common things we're starting to see as far as for successful church websites. Your church website is realistically, it's the equivalent of your welcome ministry, your greeters, the people that stand at the door and let people in, and it's also kind of a second campus. People are getting first impressions off your website. For me, whenever I'm in a job search with churches, before I even apply to them, when I see a posting on any of the job search sites, I go to their website first to see what we're dealing with. You can tell a lot from a church based off of how their website is kept. Ones that are kind of falling apart, run down, and not really taken care of, they're probably not going to be worth my time investing into because they're not worried about reaching the people that are online. Those that have it all amped up, ready to go, but it's overly flashy, same sort of thing. We know these guys are probably more about the show than the ministry, and so we may not want to mess with it. You're going to get a first impression by going to your website. It sets the tone for the relationship that you're going to have with that person, that family, that community. And it may even be the only interaction you ever have with them. And so it needs to be taken care of just like you take care of the rest of your campus. Some quick things we're going to run through. The must-haves for your website. You've got to have an easy to navigate homepage. If I can't go to your homepage and be able to find your staff, what you believe, how to get a hold of you, when your service times are, and how to get around the rest of your website, I'm probably not going to stay on there very long. We need to be able to navigate the website very quickly, very easily, and know exactly where we're going. Other things you need to have on your website, you've got to have a staff page, and preferably with actual photos of your staff. What this does is allows us to see who it is that we're going to be seeing when we walk in. We already can put names and faces together. We already will know, okay, that guy's the pastor. I've seen him before. In some cases I've even heard him before because there's audio. I already know what to expect. It starts breaking down some of those walls that we build up as far as going into a new situation. Same thing, you need to have a page that spells out what you believe and what you're about. No surprises when we walk into the service. If you're a hardcore Baptist church that's all about, hey, come and you're going to hear a biblical message. We're going to, sing, not dance. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. I'm Baptist. I'm allowed to say that. Do all we know that because when we go to your belief page, we see, okay, this is exactly what they believe. Flip side, you're, a charismatic church, you're going to be, talking, dealing with a lot more of the spiritual aspects of stuff. You're going to be talking spiritual gifts. You're going to be doing, a lot more intense prayer, all that kind of stuff. I already know that because I've already seen what you believe on your website. It's a very important piece that a lot of people sometimes overlook because they just kind of copy and paste whatever they think is important and they go on to the flashy stuff. We talked about this with the podcasting, with the content. We've talked about this with a lot of other ministry things. This is the big mistake that we make, especially here in the U.S. of we forget about the fact that the beliefs and the content and the doctrine is one of the most important things that the church is holding on to and that it needs to be identified with. If I can't tell what you believe by looking at your website, I'm probably not going to want to go to the church because I'm wondering if you guys even know what you believe yourself. The other big thing that the website needs to have, besides obviously your information as far as service times and address, is contact information. If I've got a question for you, how can I get it to you? Email address, contact forms, so that way I can just fill out, hey, I'm interested, but I'm going to need a ride. Do you guys offer bus services? Do you have any tips? Is there a dress code? Do I need to know, am I going to be looked at funny if I come in, not in a suit and tie? Am I going to be looked at funny if I do come in a suit and a tie? Those sort of things that people can easily access you, easily contact you, easily find out the information that they need to have. Again, this is the same thing as, your greeters and welcome ministry. This is the first interaction, the first impression. Allow them to be able to actually get in touch with you and contact you. Effective websites, these are ones that, you don't necessarily need to have them, but it's a good thing to have. Your kid and teen information. Do you offer any kids programming, teen programming? Is there child care provided during the service? Is there not child care provided during the service? When is it? What is it? What do you guys do? All that. Is it in a different building? All those kind of things. Along the same lines, give information to the parents. Parents, this is what you need to have in order to be able to register your child. We've got to know, who it is that's picking them up. Some churches even have the code word as far as only certain people can even bring the kid in or take them out. Parents, where can you go to register the kids? There are some churches even now that are allowing parents to pre-register their kid for the children's ministry online, so that way they're already in the system when they get there Sunday morning. Don't have to waste time doing that. Provide that information, make it easy to access, answer the questions before they're even asked. Another big faux pas for a lot of churches is using stock footage, stock photos on their website. People are coming in, like we said, this is the first impression, this is the first thing people are learning about your church. Don't use fake photos or photos that are not of your church. Use real people, use real pictures, so that way we already can recognize some people, some places, some things when we get there. Break down some of these walls that are already started to form just from the idea of going to a new church. Frequently asked question pages are a good one. The questions like, where do I take my kid when I get there? Is there easy access bathroom? Is it easily handicap access? Some older churches, older buildings are still kind of behind getting everything updated for ADA. Answer the question, if you handicap access, the easiest place to park is here, to get in here. Answer those kind of questions before they're even asked. Break down some of that walls, make it easy for people to want to come and meet you in person. Another thing a lot of churches have started doing, this is really good, is the plan a visit portal. Basically, it's a button on your homepage that says, I would like to plan a visit, and then it can walk you through the setup. So walks you through, a message from the pastor saying, we're glad you want to visit. This is when we meet, what we do on Sunday morning. Come casually, come as all that kind of stuff. then it takes them to, do you have children? Okay, this is what the process is to get your children registered. This is how we take care of our safety. This is what we do. This is, our teacher for that age, all that kind of stuff. Take them through, do you need special accommodations like for a wheelchair, for, in some cases, some autistic children, some churches are actually putting sensory rooms in. It's an awesome thing that a lot of churches are doing. Let people know about it, find out in advance, and if it's done correctly, some people even already have a family that is basically going to adopt them for the day, that's ready and waiting for that family to come in, and already has the information, knows the kids' names, knows the parents, and is able to treat them like they're the welcome guests that they are. Other things that are put on their blog, video blogs like we've been talking about, always good to have on your website. Our blog here with CSRM, we put up a monthly blog post. Normally it's written by either Dr. Linville or our executive director, David Waddell. We also have some guest writers, a lot of good stuff if you haven't checked out the CSRM blog. But it's something that's good to have on your website. Pastors write out a blog, let people know what's going on in your life, what's going on in the church's life. This is also a good area for a lot of the associate staff to be able to start putting input in and share some different stuff as well. The other big thing that a lot of churches that have effective websites have on there is the sermon vault. I can go onto a church's website and listen to the past, month and a half worth of sermons without even having to leave the page. Makes people feel comfortable, makes people want to stay and pay attention or listen, and also gets people ready for the next Sunday as far as I already know what to expect because I've already heard this pastor before. Things that you should keep off your website. These are not good to have on the websites. The little sliders that slide across the screen. Now, if you're a paraministry and you're trying to advertise some different things you're selling, that's a whole other thing. That's where sliders come in, is sliders are good to be moving products in front of people's eyes. Churches, stay away from them. They're distracting. Honestly, sometimes they're kind of annoying because you're looking at something and it just disappears and you can't even change it. Take the sliders off, replace it with buttons, replace it with a still image, replace it with your mission statement, something. The sliders need to go. We already talked about stock images, those pre-recorded images that have nothing to do. You're expecting to go in and see this happy dressed up family of 4 and half a dog, all that kind of thing. And yet you get there and those people are nowhere to be seen, and you don't even have anybody in the community, in the church community, that even looks like them. Now it looks like you've been kind of lying to them, faking it. Not a good idea. Take images of yourself, take images of your church during worship, take images of different things around your church and put those on your website. Don't use the stock images. Another thing to stay away from, and this is where we get into a lot of it with those of you that are associate pastors or have no access to the website, you don't want sister sites. What we mean by that is there should be one website for your church, not multiple. So those of us in the sports ministry, we don't want to have a separate sports website. That should be a part of the church's main website, and we should be on that side. When people have to leave a website to go get the information, they're not likely to return to the site. We want to keep them engaged on that website for as long as possible. So what that means, such and such a church.com/sports, not such and such a church sports.com. We don't the more people have, the more work people have to do as far as having to go to a separate site. It's just like if you're having to go to another store all the way, across town. It's not going to be worth your while. Don't do it. Keep everybody right there centered. You want one website for your church. The other thing to kind of do away with, slideshows, galleries. The website is not a photo booth. Obviously we need pictures on there, but galleries of just pictures from different events in the past, all that kind of thing, the website's not the place for that. Social media is, and we're going to talk about that next week again. be careful with templates. We found this out the hard way with CSRM a couple years ago. We had somebody that changed the website up with templates. It looks really good, it looks really cool, but it's very hard once you've installed the template to make the changes. That's part of the reason why our website occasionally has to be shut down for a day or two until it gets put back up, is because we needed to change information and it was put on with the template, and now we can't access it, so we have to recreate everything. Be very careful using templates. This is a new thing, church websites. I'm not really sure what it is, but apparently there is a hosting company that is offering it's like .church instead of .com or .org. Be very careful if you are going to go that route and actually use a .church or whatever it is website. Reason being, everybody already knows you're a church because it should be, it's probably in your URL already anyway. However, when the time comes that, persecution starts hitting the U.S. in a much bigger way, those that are in the .church are probably going to be shut down faster than those that are .com, .org. That's just the reality of the way it is. If you put yourself as .church, you're opening yourself up to more criticism, to being shut down easier, and honestly, it's much harder to remember as well. Be careful if you're going to go that route. Go .com, go .org. They're simple, they're easy, and it really doesn't make that much of a difference than saying, oh, look, we're, such and such church, .church. Rather than mess with that, go the simple route. Be careful over-preaching, over-indoctrinating online. It's great if you want to offer a plan of salvation on your website, but it's probably not a good idea to have it right on your home screen or on every single page, or laying it all out and saying, if you don't do this, you're going to hell, which unfortunately I've seen on some churches' sites. That's not the place for it. That needs to be done in a personal setting, in a relational setting. Again, your website is trying to get them in the door, not trying to over-indoctrinate, over-preach them, or get them to repent right on the spot, because normally what it's going to do is immediately make them click away. So a couple resources before we sign off here. If you want to go learn about, you can actually get again, it's a template, but it's a much easier to use template for a very effective website for churches, as well as get information, up-to-date information on the different SEO values, the different equation type stuff, whatever the word is that I just forgot. As far as the different things that Google does as far as putting order on their search sites, all that kind of different stuff. Anything you need to know, prochurchtools.com is a very good resource to have. We talked about with the podcasting, now we're talking about with anything online. They're the ones that put it out pretty regularly. They also are the ones that are updating everything real quickly, real easy for you. A couple other good sites to know about if you're needing to create a website. Wix.com is a very simple, easy to use if you have any kind of graphic design knowledge. You can get literally a blank template and just create, and it all goes online. Weebly.com is another easy one. It's a little bit more template friendly and a little bit more learning friendly. And then Squarespace.com is another one that's another good, easy site to learn how to do this kind of stuff and to create and host your websites. Let us know if you guys have anything you want to discuss, questions on this. We'd be happy to talk about it. We kind of did a very quick run through just to give you some of the key points, things to know, things to remember. Again, I'm Andrew Fouts. I'm the Director of Digital Resources. We'd love for you to contact us with any questions, concerns, things like that. I'll be back one more time next week. We're going to be talking social media, what do you do with your Facebook and Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. So hope you'll join us next time, and we'll see you later.